we thought actually a sense of political leadership was lacking. And the funny thing is, even though the promises of last time around haven't been fulfilled, the funny thing is they were in many ways the right promises. So it's the very odd thing that you could represent all the same promises now, and they would seem aspirational and appropriate. You'd have to add a few more. But we didn't think there was a sufficiently credible way to tackling gigantism, given previous comments. We thought, wider, I mean, who cares about Whitehall? We care about health and education. You know, this has got to be about wider public services. There's nothing about control of personal data and how we're going to have a credible policy for using identifiers online. We've got this nutty policy for an ID scheme which only works offline. We need to solve identification online, which is where all the action is. There's no real vision for public services. You know, is it going to happen through intermediaries? Is it going to be largely self-service? I mean, above all, where are the life-saving savings? You know, the government's broke. It's got to do everything online because it's so cheap. You know, we must. I mean, it comes back to the underlying title of the day, but you know, we've really got to show a sense of urgency about that central thing. We think it would be helpful if it reflected an architecture for implementing personal budgets or free choice systems. So, you know, where the budget follows the dementia sufferer, and, like, or the Kent stored value card, this kind of thing. That's a lot.
Can I add another little one in there?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's got to be about more than just transactions. We talked a lot about transactions, and that's part of a bigger point, which is that this agenda about technology is usually set and described by, I'm a bad example of this, by middle-class white people who live in London. And I don't think we have a very strong understanding of how technology can help people in other target groups, and those are actually the groups that government works with all the time. So our emphasis on something like renewing your tax disc, no, that's really, like, nobody cares really about renewing your tax disc. That's convenience, but we need to focus a bit more on the things that really are life-changing that government does.
Yeah, in a sense there might be sort of a segmentation between those that are, you know, things like getting your tax disc. If government can solve those quickly, then it can have more resources and more energy to focus on them.
So to link all of this much more closely into the real policy debates, rather than sort of seeing technology as 90% of government and there's 10% which is like offline.
Yeah. So segmentation is quite functional by individual.
So our first point touches on one of the previous group's ideas that a lot of things have been set out that are very laudable and admirable goals that we're now still trying to get to, and so it's a case of don't abandon those necessarily in search of something new and glitzy, and secondly, don't abandon existing technology in search of something new and glitzy, because many of the ideas and many of the ways of implementing them are already there. And our second point is, although picked up in the paper, we'd like to see a far greater emphasis on the change of culture needed amongst government and public service professionals for actually making this all happen.